Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll be going over vector databases. I'll be comparing vector databases to traditional relational databases, and I'll teach you the main differences between them, how they actually work under the hood, and when you'd want to use one over the other. By the end of this video, you'll understand why vector databases have become so important in modern AI applications and whether you should be using them in your own projects. Without further ado, let's begin. So before we talk about vector databases, we need to understand what we're comparing them to. Most of you have probably heard of relational databases. These are the traditional databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL, or SQLite that have been around for decades. You can think of a relational database like a spreadsheet. You've got structured tables with rows and columns. Each row contains a record, and each column is a specific piece of information about that record. For example, if you're building a blog, you might have a table for posts with columns like ID, title, author, and publish date. And the way you query a relational database is through SQL. You write something like select all from posts where author equals John, and it gives you back every post where the author field directly matches with John. Relational databases use exact matching. So if I go to my interactive demo here, and in relational search, I search for something like React, it will only find words that have the exact word React in them. And here you can see that we receive React components. It won't find anything like React.js or React.js unless you specifically tell it to look for those variations. It's very, very literal. And that's why we only see React components, because our search query matches exactly with this word right here. This is great when you have structured data and you know exactly what you're looking for. User accounts, product catalogs, order histories. Relational databases handle all of this perfectly because they're fast, reliable, and there's decades of tooling built around them. But here's where things get tricky. Let's say you're building a search feature for a documentation site. A user types in something along the lines of, how do I create a web app? In a relational database, you'd need to manually break that down into keywords, maybe search for web, app, and the word create, and hope that these exact words appear in your documentation. However, if I were to search this, you can see that we receive no matches. And if your documentation uses different terminology, for example, it says, how do I build an application instead of create a web app? If we search this up, the search comes up empty even though there's a perfect answer sitting right there in your database. This is the fundamental problem with relational search. Relational databases don't understand meaning. They don't know that automobile and car are basically the same thing. They don't know that happy and joyful are similar emotions. They just do pattern matching based on text. And this limitation becomes really obvious when you're working with modern AI applications. Think about recommendation systems, chatbots, image search, or anything that needs to understand similarity and context. Traditional databases just can't handle this well. And this is where vector databases come in. Instead of storing your data as rows and columns with exact values, vector databases store your data as vectors, which are basically just arrays of numbers. Now, I know what you're thinking. How does turning my data into numbers help anything? Here's the magic. These aren't random numbers. They're embeddings created by machine learning models that capture the semantic meaning of your data. So let me show you exactly what I mean. So I'm going to search building web applications in our vector search demo here. And look what just appeared. At the top, you can see that my query got converted into this embedding vector right here. These are 8 numbers, hence why this is an 8-dimensional vector. In a real system, this could be thousands of numbers, but we're just keeping it simple for this demo. Now, when you check out these results here, each one shows its own embedding vector. So for building React components for modern web apps, you can see its embedding vectors here, and you can see the embedding vectors for my original search, as well as the embedding vectors for the other results that have popped up. See how the React components result right here has a vector that's pretty similar to my original query? Look at these numbers compared to these numbers. They're in a similar range and have similar patterns. And the key part is that you can check this cosine similarity score right here. This is the mathematical calculation that measures how close these vectors are in that high dimensional space. The closer the vectors, the higher the similarity score, and the more relevant the result. The cool part is that these vectors exist in a mathematical space where similar meanings are close to each other. So when you search for something, the database doesn't look for exact matches like you would in a relational search. It's going to look for vectors that are close to your search query's vector right here. Even though I searched for building web applications and none of our stored content has those exact words, it still found relevant results about React components and JavaScript development. And that's because the semantic meaning is similar and you can literally see that the vectors are similar. And this is why vector databases are absolutely crucial for AI applications. When you're using ChatGPT and it pulls relevant information from a knowledge base, that's because a vector database is at work. When Spotify recommends songs similar to what you like, vector databases are doing the heavy lifting. And when Google Photos lets you search for something like a beach sunset and it finds the right pictures, vector databases are the ones that are doing the heavy lifting. So now let's talk about some real scenarios where you'd actually use a vector database. So the first scenario here is the semantic search. So instead of keyword matching like you would with relational searches, you can find documents based on meaning. So a user may search something along the lines of how to fix a broken pipe, and the system is going to return results about plumbing repairs, even if those exact words aren't in the documents. And you can see that it has found 3 relevant results by semantic similarity, and you can see how similar they are by checking out the cosine values right here. So another example of vector databases in practical application are with recommendation engines. So if you've ever used movie subscription services like Netflix, Hulu, or HBO Max and have streamed TV shows or movies and you were recommended more TV shows or movies to watch, it's not just matching the genres that you've watched previously, but it's rather understanding the themes, tones, and styles that were associated with what you've watched in the past so that it can give you more intelligent recommendations. So if you liked a sci-fi thriller, the system is going to recommend shows with similar themes, tones, and styles, and you can see that right here, and it has the cosine values that depict how similar they really are. And the same thing goes for dark mystery series, future tech drama, suspense films, as well as psychological thrillers. The third example of vector databases is with chatbots that have memory. When you're building a RAG system, that's retrieval augmented generation, your chatbot needs to find relevant context from your documents to answer questions. So in this example, say that you're an employee at a company and you search something along the lines of what's the vacation policy. The system is going to search through all of these available documents here, and it's going to obtain the vectors for these documents through a model. Then it's going to compare your prompt's vectors to the vectors available from the documents to help you find the most relevant information to answer your query, and you can see how relevant the responses are via the cosine values right here. The fourth example of vector databases is with image and audio search. Say that you want to obtain images from your Google Photos that have a beach sunset. The system is going to obtain vector embeddings from the images that already exist within your gallery, and then it's going to store those embeddings within a vector database. Then, when you perform a semantic search by typing beach sunset, your query will be converted to a vector, and it's going to be matched against stored image vectors that exist within the vector database. Finally, you're presented with images and audio based on actual similarity and not just text tags. Of course, I don't have any real pictures of a beach sunset, but you can see the idea. So now I'm going to actually explain how vector databases work under the hood. Vector databases start with embedding. So when I type in a sentence in this box and click generate, the system turns text into a list of numbers. This list is called an embedding. In real systems, this step is done by a machine learning model trained to represent meaning numerically. So models like OpenAI's text embedding 3 output vectors with hundreds or thousands of dimensions, but in this demo we use 16 dimensions so the idea stays visible and concrete. Each number in the vector carries information about the semantic content of the text. You can think of the full vector as a mathematical fingerprint for meaning. Similar sentences produce vectors that point in similar directions in high-dimensional spaces. Now let's look at the similarity section. Here, instead of storing vectors, we generate 2 embeddings on the fly from 2 different pieces of text. The important part is what happens next. So if I type in learn JavaScript programming here and building web applications here and compute the cosine similarity, it's going to measure the angle between the two vectors, and when the angle is small, the vectors are pointing in similar directions, which means the meanings are closely related, whereas when the angle grows, the similarity drops. Notice that we're not matching any keywords. The text inputs never get compared directly, only their vectors do, and that distinction is the core idea behind vector databases. Now let's look at how this process works step by step. So in the first step, raw input like a sentence right here, learn JavaScript programming, or even an image will enter the system. This data will pass through the same embedding model every time, and consistency is going to matter here because queries and stored data must use the same model so their vectors live in the same vector space. Okay, so we pass this input data through the embedding model, and then it's going to output a vector, all right? And this vector has 1536 dimensions. Then with step 2, what's going to happen is that the vector gets stored inside the database along with metadata. The database does not treat vectors like rows in a table. Instead, it organizes them in structures designed for geometric search. Each record typically includes an ID, as you can see right here. It'll include the original content right here, learn JavaScript, ... optional metadata, and the embedding vector itself, which you can find right here. As the database grows, searching every vector one by one becomes impractical, and that is where you have indexing. Techniques like HNSW create graph-based structures where vectors connect to nearby neighbors, and searching becomes a guided traversal through the graph rather than a full scan. In step 3, when a user performs a search, so right here, building web applications, the same embedding process runs again on the query. The resulting query vector enters the index, and the database rapidly navigates toward vectors with the highest similarity scores. And these scores come from distance calculations like cosine similarity, which you saw earlier in the demo. Once the distances have been computed, it's going to return the results by similarity. Higher scores indicate stronger semantic alignment with that query, and that ranked list is what the application receives and displays. The system operates on meaning encoded as geometry rather than exact text matches, and to connect this to real tools, we can rely on popular vector databases such as Pinecone, which can handle infrastructure and scaling automatically. Other options like Weaviate and Quadrant give you more control through self-hosting, and Chroma works well for development workflows. Even traditional databases now support vectors through extensions like pgvector or native vector search for PostgreSQL and MongoDB respectively. The key idea to take away is this: vector databases replace string matching with geometric similarity, and once data lives as vectors, searching becomes a math problem, and that shift is what makes modern AI-driven applications possible at a large scale. All right, and that wraps up this video. I hope this video was comprehensive and gave you a deeply thorough introduction to vector databases. To recap, we covered how vector databases differ from relational databases by testing different searches, went over 4 real scenarios, and understood how vector databases operate under the hood. If this video was helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below or feel free to email me. I'll do my best to get back to you. Anyways, with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.